Back. So you have to understand that when you get to this point right here, the file has actually already been saved. So that means that the object you have right here is saved inside the storage. So it's not that easy to start changing names of the file, start doing different things, manipulating the file. It is possible, there are ways to do it. We're not going to cover that right now, but think of it this way. This is now a file that is already stored inside the database. Or the storage, sorry. So what we could do, what I want to do is, instead of sending the file with an actual file name, what I'm going to do is, just to give you guys an overview right here, I'm going to end up with a file that contains different information. The first thing it contains is actually the name for the file, right? And this name is going to be stored inside a metadata area. Because the new name for the file would be this unique ID that we save on Firebase. That would be the name for the file that I'll put in there. I'll show you soon. The second thing you need to understand is that I'm going to also add what we call metadata. So metadata is always available in files like this, and that metadata is actually an object right here, just like just like any object. It's just a basic object where you can put in whatever you want in the metadata, and here we're going to put in original name. So I'm going to do this from the front end, right? So this might be file.png or something like that, some kind of name, right? And I'm going to save that in the metadata. Now I need both informations. I'm going to need this guy because when I create the file and save it on storage, I want to use this name to create the metadata inside FireStore, right? So that's why I need the unique ID right away. So you're going to learn how you can actually create a new document in FireStore, and you can actually decide yourself what the unique ID should be. I'm going to show you that. So the idea is that this will be the unique ID for the creation inside FireStore. So right now you'll just have to live with me making a few hacks up here to kind of get this up and running. But in the end, we're going to actually send an object or file with this information right here. The name is going to be a unique ID, and inside the metadata we're going to pass on the original name for the file. Sweet. So what do we do right here? Well, first let's try and figure out how we can actually get our good old FireStore collection and get files. So we'll pretty much do the same thing we did here. Inside the promise, what I want to do first is create a file. So I'll make a small file right here of file meta, and that's going to be actually just an object. Now what does my file meta contain? Let's jump into our database and see what we want inside a file meta. I'll select files right here, a meta, so I need last modified, name, size, and type. Here. So that's kind of the data that we'll end up with saving, right? So let's just say image slash, there we go. So these are the kind of data that we need to get from a file when it was created. So pretty much this guy is the file. He contains all that information except for the actual file name until we get metadata in there. And I'll show you how to do this from Angular Fire 2, how we can actually change metadata and send the original name up here. But for now what we're going to do is pretty much just try and create this metadata under this ID that we're passing in right now. Okay, so that's kind of the goal right here. So let's just keep going right here. If the file metadata is ready, we can actually go and do a bit of information. Let's just end this video by saying if there is actually an object, right? If this guy's even there, and the object has some metadata, because I'm going to pass in metadata later on, right? So I need to know there's an object and it has some metadata. If that's the case, then I want to do something. And in the end, what we're going to do is we're going to save the file metadata, and in the end right here we're going to resolve everything and say we're done. But if we fail, we'll make an else right here, and then we'll say reject everything because we didn't do the right thing. We didn't have any metadata inside our actual data set right here. Okay, so let's just try and keep this here for now and end this video. And again, what we've done now is we've said we get in a file right here, and that file we're going to try and create a new promise. We're going to add resolve or reject depending on how it goes, and we're going to say let's start out with creating the actual metadata we want to save inside the file on FireStore, right? This is the metadata. We also need to get the unique ID for that metadata, and that should be the name of the file, right? So we kind of turning this around where in the old version we kind of created the metadata first. Now we actually create the file first and get a unique ID from that file we created. We use that to then in the end right here we're going to call FireStore and save that metadata. Now there are a few steps still to do this, but this is a good start. So let's just keep it like this for now and see you in the next lesson. Have fun.